It's an honor and a pleasure for me to be here this morning to share with you some information on doing business in Singapore. I will try my very best to cover what are some of the business entities you can register in Singapore today, what are the features of these business entities, how can you start and close one, and also give you some information on how you can get all these information from various other sources, be it the ACRA homepage or publications that ACRA has produced. Now, we are known as the Accounting and Corporate Regulatory Authority. Those of you in the audience who are not so young may remember us as RCB, the Registry of Companies and Businesses, ROC, ROB, ROCAB, many names. But with effect from 1st April 2004, we are known as the Accounting and Corporate Regulatory Authority, ACRA for short. So when you think of us, do think of us as ACRA. One big change that came about when we became a statutory board is, in addition to business entities, we now also take care of public accountants. That explains the accounting in our name. So we are a statutory board, right? And we come under the Ministry of Finance. This is our vision, all right, that we want to make Singapore the trusted and best place for business. We want to provide a responsive and trusted regulatory environment, not just for business entities, but also for public accountants. Now, we are formed under the ACRA Act. We are a creature of statute. In addition, we also administer 5 pieces of legislation. Now, the different business entities that I'm going to touch on this morning would come under one of these pieces of legislation. So, what do we do on a daily basis? We register and regulate both business entities and public accountants. We provide information. We collect a lot of information, and we provide this information to the public for a fee. We keep all documents lodged with us. We make sure that companies and businesses, once they are registered, they comply with the law. They comply with the statutory and disclosure requirements. Right? And if they don't, of course, enforcement and prosecution may kick in. And last but not least, we promote high-quality auditing and financial reporting. So this, in essence, are the principal activities of ACRA. Now, one very important question that's always asked is, I want to do business. Must I register with ACRA? The default answer is yes, you must register with ACRA, right? Because the law says any person who wants to carry on business for profit, right, must register before carrying on business. Now, you may be asking, if not register for profit, then register for what? Right? Now, there are companies which are set up for non-profit making activities. We call these companies public companies limited by guarantee. Let me give you some examples. You have the National Kidney Foundation, the Singapore Dance Theatre, the Lee Foundation, churches, temples. These are all registered as public companies limited by guarantee because the purpose of setting up these companies is not to make profit. They are cost-related. They are set up to promote the arts, dance, theatre, or they are set up for charitable purposes. So, whilst the law says you register when you want to carry on business for profit, please bear in mind that there's also another category of companies which are set up for non-profit making activities. Right? Now, having said this, the law does exempt certain people from registration. Unfortunately, the Business Registration Act was written in 1973. So you can see things like fish pond keeper, sampan man, trishaw rider. Now, these categories of persons are exempted from registration with ACRA. And it is in law that these persons are exempted. Nowadays, there are many people who do trading online, right? They buy and sell products online. Do they need to register? Remember what I said? If in doubt, the answer is yes. But just to explain, the business activity must be carried out continuously, and it must be for the purpose of gain or profit, right? So if it falls into this criteria, that business must be registered with ACRA. Right. This is a snapshot of the number of entities we have on our register. As you can see, companies appears to be a very popular business vehicle. Then you have businesses. LLPs were only launched in 2005, right? And LPs in 2009. So that explains the low volume for LLPs and LPs, but still companies appears to be very, very popular. Now let me go into the different kinds of business entities that you can register in Singapore today. Now, some of you in the audience, you are already running your business successfully, right? So this is more for the would-be entrepreneurs. If you are deciding that, your job is boring, or when you read papers, somebody has sold their website for like 60 million and become an instant millionaire. Well, you may be prompted to say, hey, why don't I go and start my own business and become my own boss? Yeah? So there are quite a number of variety of business entities that you can choose from. You can start a sole proprietorship or a partnership. We call it a business. You can start a company, private or public. You could start a limited liability partnership or a limited partnership. Now, before you jump in and choose a business entity, it would be useful for you to ask some of these questions, because the answers to some of these questions would help you decide on the right business vehicle, right? So some of the questions would be capital. How much are you prepared to invest? How much are you prepared to lose in the event the business does not take off? How many owners will there be? Would you want to do it on your own? Not have the hassle of having partners and end up quarreling with them. Maybe you want it to be a one-man show. You want to run it on your own, right? How about liabilities and responsibilities? If the business goes bust, right? What are the liabilities you have to bear? What are your responsibilities? Are you prepared to take the risk? What are the advantages and disadvantages of the different business entities? And very importantly, is it easy to close once you decide you no longer want to carry on business? Now, these are very important questions, and the answers would really help you. Right? Let's look at some common requirements, all right? Minimum age, 18 years. Why? Because entrepreneurs are getting younger and younger these days, right? If you read the papers, you find that very young people are going into business on their own. It used to be 21 before, but we have reduced it to 18, right? Now, for certain business entities, your MediSave must be paid up with the CPF board. This is a requirement under the CPF Act. The folks from CPF will be touching on this in greater detail later, right? Now, it's not necessary that the owner of the business or the shareholder must always be a human being. It can be a legal person, like a company, right? And every entity, no matter what you register, must have a locally resident person, right? And this locally resident person, must it be a Singapore citizen or PR? No, it can also be an entrepreneur holder, right? Now, one of the first things you have to do when you want to register a business is to choose a name, right? So please, do not choose identical names. McDonald's restaurants is not available, right? Please do not apply for that name, right? Now, offensive names, vulgar names, obscene names are also out. We also have a category of prohibited names. We live in a multiracial, multicultural, multi-religious society. So certain religious words are also no, unless you are setting up a CLG. Gazetted names, okay? There's one name that the minister says ACRA cannot allow, and that is Temasek. So that is also a no for you, right? Now, you may want to conduct a search first. We have a free directory search. You can conduct a name search to see whether the name is available. Okay. Now, let's go into the different business entities. We have business. It can be a sole proprietorship. It can be a partnership. If you register a partnership, the maximum number of partners is 20, right? And, you have to worry about the unlimited liability part, because if anything goes wrong with the business and you have liabilities, creditors can sue you in your personal name. Okay, so this is the unlimited liability part. It's very cheap to register a business. It's $65, and every year you have to renew the registration by paying $20. Now, if you decide, no, after 1 year, I don't want this business, I don't want to keep it, you can close it. It's quite easy to close, right? So you can either terminate, or if you say, okay, I just wait until my registration expires, and then you can file a notice of cessation. If you don't close the business and you don't renew the registration, the registrar can cancel the registration. So as you can see, a business is easy to start, easy to close. The only thing you have to worry about is the unlimited liability part. Then you have a company, all right? A company. How do you distinguish a company and a business? A company usually has the words private limited or limited as part of its name. It could also have Sendirian Berhad or Berhad as part of its name. Now, if you want to register a company, there are two types you can register. A private company limited by shares, a public company limited by shares, or a public company limited by guarantee. Say if you want to do some charity work, you can register a CLG. I touched on it earlier. Now, what is the good thing about a company? It is a legal person like you and me, right? It can buy property, it can own property, it can sue and be sued, okay? In a company, there are people called shareholders. They own the company, right? Of course, if you are a small shareholder in Singtel, I guess you could still say you own part of Singtel, right? A very small part of Singtel. But shareholders own the company. And what do shareholders do? They appoint people called directors to manage the company, right? Now, even if all the directors and the shareholders pass away suddenly, the company can still carry on, right? The company can still carry on business. This is what is meant by perpetual succession. And in Singapore today, we allow one director companies. The law used to specify 2 directors, but now we allow 1 director, 1 member. There is no minimum capital, right? And the registration fee is $315. So these are the features of a company. I guess these features are very attractive to entrepreneurs. As you can see from the earlier slide, most people prefer to register a company. Now, how do you close a company? Now, registering a company is very easy. Closing may not be that easy. You either wind up the company, or you can apply to the registrar for the registrar to strike off the company. But very stringent criteria must be satisfied before the registrar will initiate such striking off. So, winding up, striking off, and it takes about 5 months for the company to be struck off. Why? We have to publish the name of the company in the Gazette to give creditors an opportunity to object to the striking off. Now, we have covered businesses, we have covered companies. Let's look at limited liability partnership. Now, if you ask me, this is like a hybrid. It is a combination of a general partnership and a company. Why do I say this? The word is partnership, right? It has limited liability like a company. So if you want to sue a limited liability partnership, you sue the LLP. You do not sue the partners, right? And it is a separate legal entity. It has perpetual succession, right? And if you look at the fee, it is in between registration of a business and a company. Registration is business is 65, company is 315, limited liability partnership is 165. And you can also convert, if you have an existing business or company, you can also convert into a limited liability partnership. So there are two ways in which a limited liability partnership can be born. Okay? Now, because it has the features of a company, closing down an LLP is exactly like a company. You either wind up or you apply to the registrar for striking off. And last but not least, limited partnership. This is a very new business vehicle. It was launched in 2009. The take-up is quite low. This partnership has unlimited liability, but there is a partner in the LP who has limited liability. So in the LP, you have a limited partner with limited liability and a general partner who has unlimited liability. So there are two types of partners. The registration fee is exactly like a business, $65, and annual renewal is $20. So you need a minimum of two partners, and the general partner is responsible for filing, and he has unlimited liability. The limited partner cannot take part in management, but he enjoys limited liability. And there are three ways in which the LP can be closed. You can cease business, you can dissolve the LP, or the registrar can also cancel the LP. So quite easy to set up, quite easy to close. Now we talk so much about this issue about limited liability, right? What is this feature called limited liability? Generally, everyone has unlimited liability, right? But having said that, a company, an LLP, and a limited partner in an LP enjoy limited liability. The creditor cannot sue them. The creditor sues the entity, right? Or in the case of an LP, sues the general partner. Now, one known practice is, having said that, so you think, oh, I'm a director, I cannot be sued at all. Not quite true, because sometimes directors stand in as guarantors for loans taken by companies. In such a case, the directors also become personally liable for the debts of the company. So please don't run away with the idea that, I start a limited company or a limited liability partnership, or I cannot be touched. Not true. There are exceptions. Now, all these transactions that you have to do it online. All right? Since 2002, we don't have a manual system. Our system is available 24/7. We very fondly call it BizFile, right? So you can log in and you can register a business in Singapore today within 20 seconds. That's how long it takes by the time you hit the click payment button and the system issues you with the registration number or UEN. It's that fast. Now, one of the things you need to worry about when you start a business is, where am I going to have my registered office address? Now, the folks from HDB and URA have very kindly allowed you to use your residential address as your business address. We call it the Home Office Scheme, and there are certain conditions, of course, which you must fulfill. Now, sometimes for certain activities, you have to bear in mind that registration is but the first step. Right? If you're going to run a restaurant, for example, there may be approvals, permits, licenses required from other agencies. So this is also something that you need to take into consideration. Generally, in Singapore today, once you register, you can start business. But there are certain activities which are regulated by other agencies. So please bear this in mind. If you want to check whether your activity is regulated by anybody else, please go into the business.gov.sg to check. Now, we collect a lot of information, right? Anybody who registers, files changes, we collect the information. Now, we sell this information for a fee, right? So today, if you are interested in checking up on another company or checking up on a person, whether the person has any business entities, you can do so. We have a whole suite of information products available for sale at our iShop at ACRA. Now, some of you may already have made use of this service to purchase information. Sometimes when you go to the bank says, hey, can you show me proof that you are registered with ACRA? Then you buy a business profile from us and you produce it to the bank. Right, so quite a number of you also buy the business profile for this particular purpose. Now, if you can also check on your employers, right? If you're going for a new job or, if you're going to join a company, you can also check out. So we have all kinds of packages. Now, if you are in the marketing business and you say, okay, I want to market this product to all the restaurants in Singapore, and you come to us and say, ACRA, give me a list of all the restaurants in Singapore, we can do that for you. Not free, it is for a fee. Okay? You can also check on people. Somebody says, hey, I've got 30 companies in Singapore, I'm a director of 30 companies. You can check whether he is a director of 30 companies. Right? Now, we also have what we call the corporate compliance and financial profile. This gives you not just information about the business, financial information as well, right? You want to check, right? Last year, how much profit he made, how much loss he made. When somebody is trying to sell you something, they always tell you their business is successful. They're always making profit. They're always the best company in Singapore. But you need to look at the financial statements. Are they telling you the truth? Right? It is a very powerful tool, the financial statements. So you can do all kinds of things as a consumer guide. Recently a lot of people said, oh, I signed up for spa packages. I went for one spa treatment. The next time I went, the door was locked, and the spa owner is not returning my calls, So we've come up with we've worked with Case to come up with a consumer guide. Read up the consumer guide. It gives you very important tips on what you should look out for before making business decisions. I have done these talks quite a bit, and always get asked the same question over and over again. So I thought I'd put the question on the slide so that later during Q&A and business clinic, you don't ask me these questions, okay? Right. Very often people come up to me and say, Lata, I'm a foreigner. I want to set up business. How? So if the foreigner is staying outside Singapore, you've got a relative or a friend overseas, must partner with a locally resident person, right? But if the foreigner wants to stay in Singapore, must get an entree pass from MOM. So there's lots of information on this on the MOM website. Right? Please check out. Another question, I'm employed. Can I register a business? Okay, the law doesn't say you cannot, but there's this thing called an employment contract, which is usually, I think, written in very small print. Please read that up. All right? Please read that. I'm sure it's stated somewhere there that you cannot do business. But if your employment contract is silent on this, please check with your HR. Right? You don't want to get into trouble. Okay? Very famous question. My friend said he wants to use my name. He says, nothing, nothing wrong. You just put your name. I will be responsible. You won't get into trouble. Don't believe the friend. Okay? Later on, my colleague will be touching on what are the duties and responsibilities of a director. Once you consent, you are in for life. Okay? So you may want to be very careful about such friends. Can I use the name if the other business is no longer alive? McDonald's restaurants closes shop. I don't think that's going to happen so long as they issue the Hello Kitty dolls. But if a company is no longer live for 2 years, right? If it's a business no longer live for 2 years, we can allow you to use the name. Right? But if it's a company, you have to wait for 15 years. Why? Because any time within the 15 years, a dead company can be revived, can be brought back to life. Right? So we don't allow you to use the name for 15 years. I have a business, can I convert it into a company? We use the term conversion very loosely, but you have to close the business and incorporate a company. Any restriction on the type of business activity? No restriction, but please don't import arms or sell drugs, right? Illegal, unlawful activities are prohibited under law. Other than that, you can do anything. Minimum capital, $1, but again, need not be paid up, just issued. What sort of business should I choose? Answer the questions in the earlier slides. You will get your answer, right? Now, whatever I have told you in this 30 minutes is like a condensed version, the abbreviated version. If you want more information, we have tons of information on the ACRA homepage, on the BizFile website. We have an interactive FAQ called Ask ACRA. We have a help desk that's open from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. You can ask your questions. We have a lot of books, okay? We have a regulatory and business guide for startups. And we have Being an Effective Director is available for sale. I think it's only $15. And it contains a lot of information, right? With that, I end my presentation. if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to take the questions during the Q&A panel or during the business clinic. Thank you very much.